Great to be here. NFL fantasy matchup. We are doing week 8. We're going to do the Jets weekly picks, news and notes, start or sit. Hey, before we start, actually, and we talk about NFL fantasy matchup, we live in Chicago as well too. The Bulls are doing well. But Jed, I'm going to start off with you as well too. The news coming out of Blackhawks, we were all around. Everybody was watching the Blackhawks during their championship run and all that stuff. Does the news of what's been happening in hockey with the Blackhawks taint your feelings about the championship team?
I don't know about the team. I would say individuals. So today we heard that Coach Q, he had to step down. So definitely disappointed in his continued denials, basically. And honestly, Jonathan Taves, I don't know if you guys saw his response. It wasn't great in my opinion. He basically kind of denied really knowing anything about it, and said that, and it kind of stood behind, the executives. I mean, to me, it's just sad that anyone would think that a championship run is more important than acknowledging what happened. And I even questioned the coach. This is one of those situations, if you have kids, this, where like you always think the punishment for what you did wrong is going to be horrible, and then you always overestimate what the reaction is going to be. And that's exactly, like, I think if they had have addressed this right away,
Yeah.
even in the midst of the playoffs, this was a
Yeah.
guy that wasn't even on the roster. He was on the practice squad. I mean, I think they would have been fine. And it wasn't like it was one of the head coaches. It was like whatever.
It was the video. It was the video coach.
Yeah, as a video coach.
No
So like,
name. Yeah.
exactly. So you get rid of those two guys, you move on. It would have been fine. Now they sat on it. It's this huge thing now. But honestly, I've been disappointed in the response.
Yeah. Jim.
I will say, just reading through the report, because I was reading through the general block, the findings, how the coach addressed it, because essentially what his message was, look, I don't got time for this. We can't have distractions for our championship run. So like that was a big thing, and even like even all the I don't know, Stan Bowman, all these executives now, it's affected everybody. 2 coaches are going to have to resign. Bowman, who's the general manager and also head of USA Hockey, is resigned, right? I don't know. It's a mess, right? So, but I think for them, they justified it. It was also 2010. It was a different world. And so they looked at it and just said, let's just sweep it on the rug. We'll deal with it later on. So,
yeah. And you blame it on the leadership of John McDonough. He was the president and CEO of the Blackhawks for many, many years, came over from the Cubs, and look, he turned around the entire Blackhawks organization. He created a winning culture that just did not exist. But you look back upon that, and the very fact, Jed, you mentioned is they could have easily just addressed it, talked through it, admit here's what's going on, and moved on. And we would have looked back at this championship run in a different eyes. Now we looked at it and says, look, you prioritize winning at all costs in spite of a person that was being hurt, and that was unacceptable. And you just look at all of the different men in a very different light. So that was that was disappointing. Look, I like Coach Q. I think he is a great ambassador for hockey, but this definitely tanks his mark in terms of how we perceive him going forward.
Well, I mean, and I don't watch hockey very much, but Carolina, the team that he's coaching, is like the surprise team for the hockey this year and one of the better teams. And he's actually one of the winningest coach in NHL hockey, right? So this is like a big thing for him.
Yeah. Well, hey, let's. I wanted to at least get your thoughts upon that, and just because we watch a lot of Chicago sports. But let's actually go over to some of our NFL fantasy matchup. We're going to talk a little bit about Week 8 news and notes. Jim, I'm going to start with you. What did you think about yesterday's game with the Cardinals and the Packers?
Well, I think right before we got on, at the last play, I had a cup of water in my hands. I was going to chuck it. I was so mad. Like very mad. I was frustrated throughout the entire game because I was helping out with our girls' trunk or treat, and I kept looking at the phone, and I was expecting like them to say Kyler Murray threw a touchdown, but there was nothing. And every time I looked, he only had like 6 points. And then when we start the second quarter, he threw an interception, and I was already frustrated. But then towards the last play, I was like, okay, I can at least get a touchdown potentially out of this and salvage the week. And then he throws an interception, and I was so frustrated. And I think that's my frustration right now is Kyler Murray has done really well. So the first couple of weeks, I had 30 points from him. And the last couple of weeks, he's just not done well, you know? And part of it is just he's a small quarterback, but he's also inconsistent. And so all the critics on ESPN and also NFL Network today was blasting the Cardinals because they were saying, how the heck can you let a team with all of their star wide receivers win over you guys? But then Aaron Rodgers is a really, really good quarterback.
Jed, thoughts?
No, I mean, it was a nice win for Green Bay. I mean, I think Green Bay did exactly what they needed to do, which was focus on the run game. You guys saw the time of possession was huge in their favor. They really dragged out the game. Aaron Rodgers, I would just say, he was smart. He knew he couldn't throw downfield. I think he only had 2 throws beyond 20 plus yards. So he just kept it to the short dink and dunks, running the ball, controlling the game. They really did, in a way, deserve to win it. But Cardinals had that awesome fourth and goal stand, and then had this huge 99-yard drive.
Momentum was off their hands.
Yeah. I mean, they should have won the game. I mean, to me, it comes down to AJ Green was not on the same page, and for whatever reason, he didn't turn around for the ball. The ball was there. But yeah, a disappointing loss. I agree with Kyler Murray. I would just say, I mean, I think Murray is such a talent. I don't think, I have him in at least one. I have him and Joe Burrow in one team, but I pretty much am still just starting Murray all the way through because you just can't, he could just explode at any time.
Really? You're going to choose him over Joe Burrows?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, Murray is just such an explosive talent. The other thing is I also feel like his run game, his rushing yards usually make up for any deficiencies, but you're right. This was not a good game for him. So we'll see.
Yeah. Hey, I will probably say I loved the game. I really enjoyed the game. I was sitting at the Bulls and Knicks game for Joakim Noah night. So the Wi-Fi at the United Center was a little slow. So I kept sitting there. And the next thing you know, I see Randall Cobb in the red zone, 2-yard touchdown. Then from that point on, no, I think he had 9-yard and 6-yard. So he had 3 catches for 15 yards, but he had 2 touchdowns. He got me 15 points. I was so happy. And the reason being, I was stuck between Michael Pittman, Dearness Johnson. I like Dearness Johnson, but Nick Chubb is coming back. And then from that point on, you also then had Randall Cobb. So I said, well, let's just pick Randall Cobb, and it worked. So I really enjoyed the game. Contrasted to Jimmy is I was sitting there cheering. I was hoping for one more because Aaron Rodgers is on my other fantasy team. I needed him to throw more yardage.
Well, right now, especially because it's the middle of the season, depending on where you are in the rankings, every win is really important, right? So the 2 teams that Kyler Murray is on, I'm like right in the middle. And so I can't handle any more losses because I want to try to make the playoffs. And so that's why I'm like monitoring what some of these guys are doing.
I will just say I still think Pittman is a good play for anyone out there listening. I think he's going to have a good weekend. And so, Tommy, I don't think he could have gone wrong either playing Cobb or Pittman, but I think Pittman's going to have a good game.
Yeah. You're always trying to make decisions as well, too. That's why we do starter sit, because you're looking at matchups. You're looking at, and at the same time, it comes down to gut feelings a lot of times. You're sitting there, okay, I look at the matchups. I think I have a gut feeling, and sometimes it works. Sometimes it doesn't work, and you got to work through it.
Yeah, and one thing to remember now as we get into November, don't forget the weather. The weather has a big impact on these games in the cold and, rainy areas. Like, for example, the Chicago game this weekend, we'll see. It looked like the weather might improve on Sunday, but right now it's rainy. And so anytime you know that ahead of time, then you got to downgrade all the passing, receivers and the passing for the quarterback, and you got to upgrade the rushing.
That's why the stadium guys are always the best players to go after.
Yeah. And that's why I think a lot of times look at the last Sunday is that there was a downpour in San Francisco, and you knew the wide receivers would not do well. Elijah Mitchell had probably his best game of the season last week.
Yeah, exactly. In that Tampa game too. I mean, it was same thing. Like, you knew it was just wet, and so what could they do?
Yep. Hey, one thing that actually I just saw this come through the newswire is the Texans are sending veteran Mark Ingram to the New Orleans Saints. He would serve as a backup for Alvin Kamara. That leaves David Johnson as the clear lead back in Houston. Well, maybe Philip Lindsay. A lot of times I still like him a lot. Jim, what do you think of that one as well, too, for both Alvin Kamara as well as David Johnson?
Actually, the people that they said David Johnson's going to end up being the starter. But they said the person to watch out for are the two people right behind him. What do you call it?
Philip Lindsay.
Lindsay. And then I'm trying to remember, who's this Scotty Phillips? I don't know if you guys can take a look at him. I'll take a look at him. But Scotty Phillips has been on the practice squad. But during preseason, he did really well. And there's a lot of people in Houston who's been really lobbying for him to end up being like, be given a chance because they think really highly of him.
Yeah, and I'll just say I've got Alvin Kamara in one league, so I'm curious to see how much that Ingram eats into his carries, if at all. I'm not worried at it at this point, but we'll see.
Well, I think who is it? The coach Sean Payton was saying he did a press conference the other day, and during his weekly talk, and one of the things he was saying is he said we like Mark Ingram. He has a good relationship with Kamara. The other reason is as the week is going on, especially with 17 games this season, we just want to keep him fresh, and so that's one of the reasons why they brought on Mark Ingram. And he was saying that Alvin Kamara was actually the one who really advocated for Ingram to come back.
Yeah. A couple of things in terms of depth chart. There's David Johnson, Philip Lindsay. After Philip Lindsay, officially on depth chart is Rex Burkhead and then Scotty Phillips.
Yeah, Scotty Phillips is the one that I've been reading about. All the Houston folks keeps advocating for him.
Yeah. Jed, Zach Wilson, MRI confirms a PCL sprain. He is expected to miss 2 to 4 weeks. The Jets traded for Joe Flacco on Monday. It looks like quarterback Mike White is starting. Well, look, we talked about this on Tuesday as well, too. Corey Davis, are you starting him at all? Is there any reason you're starting Corey Davis this week?
If you have to, I think, and you want to put him in a flex spot, or if you're in a bind, I think it's fine. They're obviously going to try to throw a lot. They're going to be behind. They're playing the Bengals. The Bengals are 11-point favorites. The Bengals are going to kill them. But they'll be throwing the ball, so there's a chance. But yeah, for me, I am sitting Corey Davis until that quarterback situation gets cleaned up. I don't think any of those guys, Joe Flacco included, I think they're not salvageable.
Don't you think the Bengals are going to go off though this week?
Oh, for sure. I think the Bengals are going to lay the hammer down.
Yeah. Like I'm not one to always. I mean, I think for sure play Jamar Chase, right? Play Joe Mixon. I actually think T. Higgins will have a pretty good game too.
Yeah, you want, when it's going to be a blowout and there's going to be a lot of points. The second wide receiver after Jamar Chase, either T. Higgins or Tyler Boyd, I think are both good plays. Do you guys know that Jamar Chase is on pace to beat Justin Jefferson's rookie record?
Yes, Jamar Chase. I will say, okay, Jamar Chase is so good. Like in my dynasty league, I was kicking myself because you can only pick rookies, right? So that's how we draft. And he went 6th, and I had the 5th pick. And I picked, what's his name? Lawrence from Jacksonville. I was like, what the heck was I thinking about right now? So
no, Trevor Lawrence. You picked Trevor Lawrence?
I picked Trevor Lawrence because I was like, everyone kept saying that he is a can't miss quarterback. I was like, oh, I might as well because I need a quarterback because I had Matthew Stafford. And I was like, at least now I'm solidifying it. But I was like, I'm kicking myself because now I missed out on Jamar Chase.
I'm telling you, I was telling Charlene last night, we were looking at her lineup and making changes in her lineup. I said, hey, look, that Jamar Chase dynasty pick is looking very good right now.
Yeah, but isn't she in last place or second to something?
She's in second to last place. Yeah, a lot of her guys are injured.
Yeah, she's playing for next year. But yeah, no, Jamar Chase has been really impressive. And again, it just shows you where all that preseason talk, you just got to take that with a grain of salt because everyone was talking about how he was dropping balls and but he's been phenomenal. If he beats Justin Jefferson, I think that's impressive. I would just say on Trevor Lawrence though, don't give up. I think Joe Burrow and Justin Herbert really showed you need a good year too before you can really settle in. So I wouldn't close the book on Trevor Lawrence at all.
Are you saying the same thing about Justin Fields as well too?
Oh yeah, definitely. I think Fields has been he got a bum situation. I mean, he came in where they didn't declare him the starter. He didn't get the starter practice reps. And honestly, I'm really disappointed with the coach. Like I'm waiting for Nagy to move on and for us to get a coach who can work with Justin Fields' skills and talents. I definitely am not. I haven't sold on him yet.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing the Bears need, if I was the general manager, just draft a bunch of linemen to protect him. Like if you can protect Fields, that makes a big difference because it opens things up for everybody. Because they've actually got pretty decent running backs, right? Khalil Herbert, as well as also with David Montgomery. My guess is Allen Robinson is going to walk after this year because he's not going to sign another deal. But they still got Darnell Mooney, and they can pick up a couple other decent wide receivers.
Hey, Herbert has looked good, by the way. I debated playing him for this weekend. I think he's looked really strong.
I don't know if this is official, but I was listening to Schefter today, and he says that Herbert has surpassed what's his name, Damian Williams, in terms of the depth chart.
Yeah, he's number 2. Yeah, that makes sense.
Now, in terms of Bears and offensive linemen, the Bears actually have done it. Look, round 2, pick 39, Tevin Jenkins. Round 5, Laird Borum. Where are those guys? Tevin Jenkins is injured with a back injury. So the Bears, it hasn't tried. These don't make good picks. And now you're stuck with Jason Peters, who was great 5 years ago for Philadelphia, but just isn't very good anymore. So that's the problem with the Bears a lot of times.
Yeah. I just felt like even last week, they just gave up against Tampa Bay. But after a while, Tom Brady and his team is so hard. But I just feel like they gave up. And even this week against San Francisco, San Francisco's got a pretty good defense. And I was like, outside of Herbert, who else are you going to play right on that team?
I think they have a chance this weekend. I think the 49ers are a little bit in disarray, and that team has not, because of injuries, that team has really not been as strong as I was hoping. And so I think that the Bears have a chance. That's why I was saying if it rains, if you take out the passing game and it becomes just a rushing game, I think the Bears could keep up. Although 49ers have a very strong rushing attack, as we know.
Deebo Samuel's good. I can see Deebo Samuel killing these guys.
Yeah, but Jimmy G is not. So that's the issue.
Hey, Deshaun Watson, Jed, NFL Network reports there's a good chance Deshaun Watson is traded. And the Houston Chronicle does report that the Dolphins and Texans have agreed to terms on a trade, but they want clarity on his legal issues before going through with it. November 2nd is the trading deadline. Does your gut feeling tell you that Deshaun Watson?
Well, I'm shocked that the trade. That's not what I'm shocked by. I knew the trade was going to happen. He did not want to be in Houston. They had to trade him. That's a smart thing to do. What I'm shocked by is so far the NFL is giving signals that they may let him play because they may say essentially we don't have the information yet to make a determination on what's going on with his lawsuit, and so we may not suspend him. That's the part that's shocking to me. I thought for sure he would not be able to play this season, but there's definitely a chance now, at least from what I've read most recently, and that is surprising to me. If he can play, all of those guys out there, all of you who picked him up and just stashed him on your bench, that could really play out. Because remember, Deshaun Watson last year is a top 5 fantasy quarterback, and so if you got him out, that's pretty impressive.
You know who's been stashing him? Because I was looking around, Tommy. Every league, I kept looking around. And I was like, "What the freak? Did he just go and pick up Deshaun Watson on last night?" I mean, I was up at 1 o'clock in the morning, looking around for Deshaun Watson, and I was like, "Oh, heck."
He's been stashing on. The only thing is, I have a good quarterback, Dak Prescott or Kyler Murray, so I'm gonna have to use them to trade. Hey, look, in a couple leagues, I'm in last place. If I'm in last place, I'm looking for next year, especially keeper leagues. I'm trading all my players. All right.
Hey, I'll say this. I picked I think it was in our Walter White league. Someone dropped Russell Wilson.
Yes.
And so I picked him up, and it looks now like he's going to come back sooner than expected.
Yep.
So that is going to pay off for me. I was really happy about that.
Who was your starting quarterback in that league?
I think it was Tannehill, I think.
Yeah. That's really good. That's really good. Mm-hmm. Hey, Nick Chubb is just so you know, Nick Chubb calf is expected to play in week 8. Ernest Johnson was a great 1 week fill-in, but Nick Chubb is now back in week 8 as well too. George Kittles is expected back in week 9. Here's one, Jim. Sam Darnold was benched for PJ Walker in the fourth quarter, but head coach Matt Rule says that Darnold is still our quarterback moving forward. But man, without Christian McCaffrey, they are terrible. Do you like any of the players in Carolina this week at all?
Not this week, by the way, as I'm talking to you. I'm going through other leagues, just making sure Deshaun Watson isn't still sitting out there. I was like, oh, he's taken up and everywhere. You know what? I don't. I still think Sam Darnold's gonna end up being a quarterback. I think they're just waiting for Christian McCaffrey to come back. He's scheduled to come back he can get off the IR next week. Reports are that he's progressing. They're going to watch him practice. The only problem is this happened a few weeks ago, right? Where they said the injury's not that bad. It's week by week. He might play, and he doesn't play for a while, right? And so my only worry is that even though he's scheduled to come back next week, it might be a few more weeks before he's able to come back. With that said, I would say the only person that you would want to play is maybe DJ Moore, because Robbie Anderson's not doing well. He is getting a lot of passes thrown his way, but he's not catching them. Chuba Hubbard, quite honestly, has not done what Mike Davis did this year. And Sam Darnold has really regressed without Christian McCaffrey behind him.
Yeah, the only thing I'll say though is they're playing the Falcons, so they're not exactly playing, a top tier defense. So if you're desperate, I wouldn't be too scared to play a DJ Moore or even a Chuba Hubbard, because again, I don't think the Falcons. I think there's going to be points to be had here. I think both ways. If you've got your Falcons players too, I would put them in. Obviously, Kyle Pitts has been really starting to pick up now and playing much better. But yeah, I mean, I agree. Generally, you want to stay away from the Panthers, but this weekend it could be okay.
Go ahead, Tom.
No, I'm expecting Kyle Pitts to continue to go off again.
Yeah. So my only disagreement with that, Jed, is if you looked at the Falcons defense this past week, right? And it's only because they got back on the bye. Their actually defense did pretty good. Deion Jones had close to like 13, 14 tackles. Alucon, another member of their defensive corps, ended up getting like close to about 15 tackles, right? And so they actually have pretty decent defensive players. And so I just don't have any belief in the Carolina folks. But I do think Atlanta's starting to come on. I think in the last 3 games, they're 3-0, and Matt Ryan's been doing pretty good.
Yeah. Hey, Jared Judy is expected to play in Week 8. J.J. Watt's undergoing season-ending surgery. Odell Beckham is not planning to undergo surgery on either of his injured shoulders. Ryan Fitzpatrick is walking around on crutches, but still weeks away from returning. Jonnu Smith is probably going to be ruled out with a shoulder injury. So those are some of the news and notes that we have. Jed, what are your weekly picks for this week?
So this week, it's interesting. I don't know if you guys noticed this article. They were talking about how, obviously the NFL really wants there to be parity. They like it when games are close and tight. I think it was week 6 they had the most blowouts, and they defined blowouts as a win by, I think, more than 2 touchdowns. And so that's something that it's interesting. It's something that the NFL as a whole is going to keep watching, because this week when I look at the lines, the betting lines, there are some big spreads. So you've got the Bills are 14-point favorites over the Dolphins. Generally, you don't see, double-digit spreads. Mm-hmm. The Bengals are 11-point favorites over the Jets. The Rams are 14-point favorites over the Texans. So you have some big spreads. And so it's just interesting to see. I think those are it just will be interesting to see what the NFL does in response. Like if they try to improve either the picks or something among some of the lower teams. So that was just something I wanted to mention. As far as picks for this weekend, it was kind of tough. I think one is the Cowboys coming off their bye. Somehow they are not favorites. They are underdogs to the Minnesota Vikings. It's because it's up in Minnesota. Here's another betting tip actually for you guys. Generally speaking, the home team automatically starts as a 3-point favorite. And then you work from there. So Minnesota is a 2.5-point favorite against the Cowboys. I like the Cowboys to win that game though. The other one I'm going to take, go ahead.
Jed, I was going to ask you for that. Don't you think that a lot of it is also around the uncertainty of whether or not Dak Prescott's going to be playing? So I would imagine that Prescott is going to play. That might change some of the lines as well, too.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point. I didn't pick up that. Did they not declare him for the game? I thought they said he was playing.
Most likely he's going to play, but he's still limited in practice. So they have not officially said he's good,
Okay, so that's definitely a thing to watch for, because obviously if they don't have if they don't have Dak, then that definitely changes things. The other one I wanted to mention was that was it Titans and the Colts? No. Yeah, well, Titans and the Colts, yes. So Titans are playing the Colts. The Colts are 3-point favorites again because it's in Indianapolis, but I really like the Titans. I think the Titans are starting to come on. I think Derrick Henry obviously has been playing well, but now you're really seeing A.J. Brown finally is coming around. Julio is there. I think the key with Julio is Julio is not good for fantasy, but he's been taking pressure off of AJ Brown, which is letting AJ Brown really do his thing. But I think that the combination now of that passing game coming around with Derrick Henry, I think the Titans are really strong. So I like the Titans in that game.
All right. Speaking of that, let's go through some games. Titans 5-2 against the Colts 3-4. Carson Wentz has been doing well, but Jed, let me ask you go. The Colts have allowed the 5th fewest fantasy points to running backs this season. Who's going to win out, Derrick Henry or the Indianapolis defense?
Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry is a beast, man. This guy is unstoppable. I think I have no problems playing him. And even if he doesn't get his rushing yards, I expect there to be at least a touchdown or two there. So I'm still playing Derrick Henry.
Yeah. Another person for you to watch is Jonathan Taylor. I think will do really well. Titans have allowed the 8th highest yards per carry in the NFL this season. And Jonathan Taylor has been doing really, really well.
And the Titans defense is not good. So I'm expecting there to be points to be had both ways, but I do think Tennessee will win out.
I can see Jonathan Taylor next year being like the 3rd or 4th running back that's taken in the draft.
Yeah, he has looked that. I have to admit, he has looked very, very good. And it's nice that he stayed pretty much injury free so far. So that's been good.
I didn't think he would do as well as I. Hey, look, all of you guys know I love Antonio Gibson. One of my other leagues, I traded Antonio Gibson for traded Jonathan Taylor for Antonio Gibson, and so far Jonathan Taylor's winning out here.
Well, and J.K. Dobbins was the one between J.K. Dobbins and Jonathan Taylor. I like Dobbins over Taylor, but obviously Dobbins has been out the whole year, so hasn't played out.
Yeah. Jim, Steelers versus Browns, 3-3. Steelers versus the Browns, 4-3. We all know about Najee Harris. But and Deontay Johnson is always going to be good. Chase Claypool, what do you think of him?
I think if you need a 2nd or 3rd wide receiver, Claypool's going to get his fair share. I don't know if I would play him as my 2nd receiver, but for sure number 3 if I have him on the roster. I think for Najee Harris for sure is going to be your number 1 wide receiver out there. Or running back.
Are you guys playing any of the Cleveland Browns wide receivers? You think like Jarvis Landry maybe as a play?
I think Jarvis Landry for me would be my number 3 receiver. I don't know about Odell Beckham. I don't know about any other tight ends. Even Peoples Jones, I'm not going to take a chance on. But Jarvis Landry, he's projected to score 11 or 12 fantasy points. And so for a 3rd one, he's actually not that bad.
Yeah. Jed, Patriots 3-4 against the Chargers 4-2. With Jonnu Smith injured, are you looking at Hunter Henry, who becomes probably your primary wide tight end over there? And also Damian Harris had a very good game last week. Jed, what do you think of the New England?
Well, I love the whole. So Hunter Henry, obviously being a former Charger, we always love revenge games, and do not think that teams don't think about that. They definitely do. So would not be surprised to see Hunter Henry intentionally focused, or the Patriots focused on getting the ball to Hunter Henry. So I love that as a play. Obviously, though, the Chargers are a strong team. I expect the Chargers to win this game, but Patriots always play tough. As we always expect, they always have a good defensive plan. But yeah, if you've got Hunter Henry, that was me. And actually, Hunter Henry's probably on some waiver wires out there. So if you need tight end help, not a bad play at all this weekend.
Yeah.
Especially Bill Belichick against younger quarterbacks. He always does well. Couple of stats for you to know. The Chargers have allowed the 5th most fantasy points to tight ends in 2021. And also, this actually helps with Damian Harris. The Chargers have allowed more than 3+ rushing touchdowns in 2 straight games in the last 2 weeks.
Yeah. The other thing about this particular game, I was just listening to one of the podcasts driving in this morning. They were saying that Keenan Allen is actually not the number 1 wide receiver. And in fact, he's going down the road of starting to regress. And so he's not a player that they're looking to be your number 1 receiver every week on your fantasy league.
Yeah, I'm still looking for. I agree on that. I think Mike Williams is the number 1, but I'm still looking for the consistency. Mike Williams has had a pretty good season, but there have been a couple games where he just kind of disappeared. And so we'll just have to see if he can maintain that consistency. But yeah, I think Keenan Allen's days of being number 1 are pretty much out the window.
Jim, Washington 2-5 against the Broncos 3-4. The one person that I want to talk to is the running back committee, Javonte Williams and Melvin Gordon. Everyone's starting Javonte Williams.
Yeah.
Is anyone starting Melvin Gordon anymore?
I don't think so. I think you're starting to see the trend being very similar to what happened to Cam Akers last year. It's around this time when Cam Akers really took the running back position, had a couple really good games, and he became the full-time starter. I think that's what's happening with Williams right now.
Yeah. Jerry Judy, are you even starting him this year? He does come back from injury. Cortland Sutton has been doing decently well, but Jerry Judy had a great week 1.
I don't know. I'm still suspect on on Bridgewater, and so I think for me, if I had Judy on my team this week, I'll just take a pass, see if I have other better receivers out there and play them, and just see what happens in week 1. I always think that unless it's a superstar, I'm always a little hesitant to play a person on their first week back from a injury.
Yeah, I agree with that. I like to slow play it a little bit. I wouldn't mind throwing Judy into a flex position though, if you need it. Again, Judy's a talent, supreme talent. And when he played last time together with Cortland Sutton, it's just nice having both options. It really takes the pressure off of each other. So if anything, I think this could really help Cortland Sutton for this game as Jerry Judy kind of eases back in. He'll take some defensive pressure off of Sutton, and I can see Sutton having a really strong game. But after that, I would expect Judy to ascend to be the true number 1 there.
You know who's actually having a decent season? Noah Fant.
Yeah,
if you look at Fant, right, the last couple. And who knows what's going to happen with Judy coming back? But Noah Fant, he's had quite a bit. Like last week, he had 7 balls thrown his way. The week before that, he had 11 balls. And so he's actually getting quite a few looks and being on offense.
Oh, I think he's top 10. I think he should be on a starting. I think he should be a starting tight end in a 10 to 12 team league.
Just so you know, Noah Fant is tight end 6 in 2021 this year.
Oh, who's the other 5? Who's the 5 before him?
I have no idea. Kyle Pitts, Aaron Waller. Yeah.
You know who's not in that? I bet the San Francisco guy is not on there.
Yeah, Kittle's because he's been out. Yeah.
Jed, Buccaneers 6-1 versus Saints 4-2. If Antonio, look, there's a good chance Antonio Brown will probably not play because of his ankle injury. But if the 3 of them around, rank to me between Godwin, Brown, and Evans, who would you like in that order?
Well, I've been playing Brown over Godwin, but I think that because Brown has been out, Godwin has been picking up the slack. So he's starting to get back to what we expected to see out of Godwin. But honestly, if all 3 are healthy, I think Brown is the number 1 guy.
Yeah. But it does seem like Evans has the Randall Cobb treatment. Not a lot of yardage, but he gets the touchdowns.
Yeah, big body. He's a huge guy, big target for Tom. So, yeah, agree with that. If you want to play, that's the thing. When you play with these guys for touchdowns, it's just hit or miss. It's just luck of the draw, right? So that's tricky.
And remember, this week Gronk comes back as well too. So if you're looking for a tight end to fill a position, Gronk is out there on some of the waivers.
Yeah. Hey, Jed talked a little bit about the Cowboys 5-1 against the Vikings 3-3. That's a Sunday night game. So many of you guys who are watching this will probably be on trick-or-treating with your kids as well, too. But Jed, wrap us up with Giants 2-5 against the Chiefs 3-4. Patrick Mahomes has not been Patrick Mahomes. The Kansas City Chiefs has not been very, very good. What are you expecting in this game?
Yeah, this is shocking to me. The Kansas City Chiefs is probably the biggest storyline in fantasy. The fact that they are not doing as well as we hope. The defense has been atrocious. Yeah, and so I keep expecting that we'll hear about some injury or something that we don't know about that might help explain what is going on. But I expect the Chiefs to win. They're 9.5-point favorites, but I expect the Giants to cover the spread. I think the Giants will keep it close. I think basically the Chiefs defense is so bad that I think the Giants will be able to score and get points. So if you've still got your Giants players out there, I think you can start them and still potentially get some points here.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Hey, in our time left, let me just actually go through some start or sit and see what you guys think. Jim, let me go through with you. Pick one of the 3 for flex. Javonte Williams, Jalen Waddle, or Melvin Gordon.
I think I would pick Javonte Williams.
All right. Jed, Damian Harris, or J.C. McKissick?
J.D. McKissick?
J.D. McKissick.
Yeah. I think I actually might go with Harris.
Yeah. Harris has done pretty well last week he had over 26 fantasy points.
Yeah. And I feel like, they're starting to focus on him a little bit. So I go with Harris.
Jim, wide receiver 3 or flex, Devontae Smith or Jerry Jeudy?
I'll still go with Devontae Smith because he's the number 1 receiver, and we'll see how Jeudy does. But Philadelphia is so inconsistent right now.
Yeah, I was going to say I think Jerry Jeudy. Actually, I would go Jerry Jeudy on that one, just on talent. I think Devontae Smith is still we don't know what the book is on him.
Yeah.
Jed, with Miles Sanders probably going to be out, are you looking at Gainwell or Boston Scott?
Ugh, neither. If I can help it, but if I had to, Gainwell.
Got it. Jim, Chase Claypool or Devontae Williams?
I think I'll go with Claypool. Yeah, I think I'll go with Claypool.
Jed, here's another bad one. Chuba Hubbard or Odell Beckham?
Ooh.
Not Odell Beckham.
Yeah, not Odell. I would say Chuba Hubbard. You know what? I want to back up on my the Philadelphia Eagles ones. I just realized they're playing the Lions. So actually, I think Devonta Smith and or even Gainwell, those are not bad plays because they're playing the Lions. So
They are saying the Lions are going to get their first victory this week.
That's true. That's true. We had our first undefeated lose,
Yeah,
and so
yeah.
now maybe the first,
Yeah.
non-winning can win.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jim, either one is pretty good. Corey Davis or Kadarius Toney?
If I had him, I would take a chance on Tony.
Yep, agree.
Like if he's playing, he's actually a pretty good start.
And here's another good player who's been decently well for Buffalo: Emmanuel Sanders or Marquise Brown? Jed.
Oh, that's tough. Yeah, I've actually picked up Emmanuel Sanders in a couple spots. But man, Marquise Brown has been the clear number one. I think I'm going to have to say Marquise Brown.
Yeah.
Jim, Brandon Cooks or Julio Jones?
Neither of them are doing well. Brandon Cook started really strong, but the last couple of weeks he's at single-digit fantasy points, but he's still your number one receiver, right? I think Tyrod Taylor is coming back. I don't know if he's starting, but for sure, if Tyrod Taylor is going to start, play Brandon Cooks. Yeah, you know what? I'll still play Brandon Cooks because Julio has just not done well, right, the last few games.
Jed, T. Higgins or Jarvis Landry?
That's a good one. I'm going to go with T. Higgins because I think they're going to crush the Jets. Hey, who's Baltimore playing? You had me on Marquise Brown. Are they playing this weekend?
You know what? Is Baltimore playing?
Yeah, Baltimore's not playing this weekend. That's why I was like so thrown off. I was like, I think Baltimore's off this week.
Okay, you know what? Baltimore is on bye. Okay, you're right.
So don't
Baltimore
pick
is on bye. Ravens, Baltimore's are both Raiders and Baltimore are both on bye. Raiders at 5-2 and Raiders at 5-2. You're right. Yeah. All right, Jim. Last one. Devontae Booker or Darrell Williams?
Darrell Williams. I still think the Chiefs can turn it around, right? I think we talked about this earlier. If they can if their defense is not going to stop anybody. But if Patrick Mahomes can just stop trying to make big plays and they just go consistent, Kelsey running back, and then occasional big play to Tyreek Hill, they'll be fine. So that's why I do think that in order for them to do well and stabilize, they're going to need the running back.
Here's a big question: is will the Chiefs make the playoffs?
I think they should. Yeah, for sure. How they're going to do beyond that, I don't know, but I think they should.
I don't know how you can say for sure. I mean, they're definitely not going to win their division, so they're going to have to win the wild card. To win the wild card, they already have 4 losses.
Yeah,
that's a tough proposition. They pretty much can't. They can maybe lose one more game, maybe. So I don't know. I don't know if they make the playoffs.
Don't you think at some point Mahomes and Reed is going to be like, okay, like we need to put a stop to this. We can't keep doing all these crazy plays. We can't keep trying to push it and hope that we'll throw a Hail Mary and we'll win this game. I think they'll calm themselves down and actually start saying, okay, we're ready to start winning again.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that I'm expecting them to turn things around and to be better, but I think they're just in a tough position now. The way the playoffs are set up, if you don't win your division, you now have to have a strong record, and I just don't know. I don't know if that's going to happen for them.
Yeah. The problem with the Kansas City Chiefs is a lot of times their defense give up points all the time. In the past, Kansas City has always had quick strike to Travis Kelce, Tyreek Hill, and then from that point on, you're okay. And he's pretty good about keeping the lead. Now, at the same time, your defense gives up points right away, so you're always now coming back. And then Patrick Mahomes is so used to making one big play to wipe out the score and make it even.
But think about it. That's how their team has always been built. Their defense was never, ever created to stop anybody. It's just that teams have figured out if they can keep the defense on the field by running against them and taking over the time of possession and leaving Patrick Mahomes off of the field, that's their best chance of winning. So if you notice, a lot of times when the defense is on the field, they're going for the fourth downs. They're not punting that ball.
Jed, you know what? Since I messed up on your Marquise Brown, let me give you one final one. Going back with Emmanuel Sanders, Michael Pittman, or Chase Claypool?
Okay, I wouldn't pick Chase. So for me, it's between Pittman and Sanders. And Sanders, the Bills are playing Miami, so I expect them to kill them. But that means I don't think they're going to be throwing it as much. I think you're gonna see a lot of runs just to milk the clock. Whereas I think Tennessee versus Indianapolis is going to be a shootout. So I'm picking Pittman all the way there.
Yeah. Comes down matchups. Very good.
Yeah.
All right. We'll be back on Tuesday. Any lasting thoughts from both of you guys on basketball, on hockey, on baseball, anything you want?
The only thing I think I'm monitoring is next week is the deadline for free agency, right? So Deshaun Watson, we talked about. I do think there's a couple of players that I've been monitoring on waiver wire, i.e. a Marlon Mack, who's going to be traded, who actually is going to become fantasy relevant. So if you're looking at players to add, look for potential people who's going to be traded this coming weekend.
Yep, that's a good one. The other thing I'll just say is I think Chicago Bulls, man, they're the real deal. I'm expecting them to get the number 4, number 5 seed. They've looked great this season, so super
Did you
excited.
hear? Is Zach Levine? Isn't he didn't he hurt his hand or something? Somebody was saying that.
Tommy, you were at the game.
He has a small low fracture in his thumb, non-shooting thumb. Just so he should be okay, but small, tiny little fracture in his non-shooting thumb.
Yeah. Oh, the other thing, Charlene got a T-shirt yesterday.
Yeah.
Oh, that was great. Yeah, nice.
Wait, did it actually the ones that comes down or the
Parachute.
Actually, you know what? I got the T-shirt because I was the tallest one in my section, and so I was able to reach up and grab it.
Jed, his wife, is all about these freebies.
Oh,
You get so excited about these things.
Oh, that's huge. That's great. I mean, that's really cool. I had a friend who got one before, so that's super exciting when I love when they come down. So if you've never been to a Bulls game, they shoot out these T-shirts on parachutes and they just float down into the stands and you reach out and grab them.
Yeah, and no, she was a little frustrated because we could have gotten the second one because as one was falling, there was another one falling right behind me, so I missed that one. She was saying, "You missed both of them." But there was this one game. The last thing, there was this one game that the Bulls were playing that I thought was very creative. They did this one in 30 seconds. You had to find where's Benny. So one of those between timeout games. And so they scanned the crowd, and that person who they pick has to figure out where Benny the Bull is hiding within the stadium. Like, where's Waldo?
Oh, that's fun. Yeah, the
Yeah,
Bulls,
that was great.
if you guys haven't been to a Bulls game, they do a great job of all the in-between timeout, in-between quarters, at the half. They have so much entertainment that even if you don't like basketball, if you don't want to watch basketball, there's plenty of other stuff to watch.
Yeah.
And yesterday at the game, there was Cliff Livingston, Randy Brown, Tony Kukoc was there, John Paxson was there, Joakim Noah, Luol Deng, Ben Gordon, all those guys. The only one that was noticeably absent was Kirk Heinrich. I mean, Nazim Muhammad was there. All those
I
guys.
wonder where Heinrich was.
Yeah, he was the only one that wasn't there.
Huh, that's
Okay,
surprising.
here's a piece of trivia. Did you know Kirk Heinrich is the 3-point leader in Chicago Bulls history?
Wow, over Paxson and over
Kerr.
over Kerr.
And over
Zach
Hodgson.
Levine most likely will surpass him, but Kirk Heinrich is the 3-point leader for the Chicago Bulls.
Yeah, I remember Heinrich because he played at Kansas and just used to kill the Sooners. So I remember when the Bulls drafted him, I wasn't happy, but he turned out to be pretty good.
Yeah, because you know who else got drafted that year? Dwayne Wade, Chris Bosh, LeBron, all those guys, and we got Kirk
Carmelo
Heinrich.
Anthony. Yeah.
Yeah.
And have you guys been listening to the Stacey King podcast as well too?
I have not. Is it? I mean, I have it downloaded, but I haven't.
Yeah, he's brought in Bill Cartwright, John Paxson, BJ Armstrong, all those guys.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, it was great. It's been great so far. All right, we'll talk on Tuesday.
All right. Thanks.
All right, guys, I got to hop.
All right. Have fun. Enjoy your meeting.
Yep. Bye, guys.